Good evening, everyone. Okay, I'm audible, right, everyone? Am I audible? All right. So today we're gonna start up with introduction with the DevOps, and we will try to have a understanding on some kind of a cloud DevOps tools. Okay. I hope everyone are clear with the yesterday sessions and before sessions. Any doubts before I start? Are we trying to practice whatever we try to discuss since before? Okay. So in general, along with the cloud, you might have heard about the term called DevOps, right? So we'll try to see what is a DevOps, okay, and how it is going to be integrated with the cloud environment. So understanding and what kind of a tools we try to use, that we're going to discuss from today, okay. So in general, before understanding, we have a two terms in terms of this kind of a DevOps concept. You can see with the title itself, we can have a DevOps, DevOps. So the combination of development and operations. So in general, in the software domain, so what happened? We have two teams, right, for developing the applications. What does it mean? So developers are the one who try to build the application by code. They try to have a code, they'll try to build the applications, and they'll try to test it out. Once it is done, the code will be passed on to the operational team. So then there is a separate team. What they do, they will try to have the deployment of that particular code applications into some kind of a virtual platform, either in the cloud or in terms of a physical infrastructure. So they'll try to deploy the code, they'll try to install the applications, and they'll try to maintain the operational level on the backend infrastructure, like what kind of a platform, what kind of infrastructure is needed, and then they'll try to start monitoring. So this is how the combination is to be there. So the word DevOps is the combination of the term development and the operations. Okay, it means to represent a collaborative or the shared approach to the tasks performed by a company's application development and IT operations team. So the development will be team will be taking care of the deployment of a code and trying to develop an application, because they are the developers who try to work on the application development. The operation team is the one who will try to make sure the code is in place. Okay. So the code can be operated. They'll try to install it. They'll try to monitor for the proper functionality and hand over to the clients. All right. So what it does, it enables the software development and operations team to accelerate delivery through the automation tools and the collaborations and other kind of improvements approaches. Okay. So you are making a decision to improve the flow and the value delivery for the applications to be handed over to the clients. Okay. So that is used to be in earlier. So what happened? This is what the approach in general in earlier coming, this before this DevOps concept is in place, this is how the approach used to be. So what happens? So it is going to be a time taking process, right? So what happens in general, just coming days, what actually happens if this is a process, the development team writes the code for the entire applications and then it hand over to the operational team for the production. You can see they will try to write the code, but the responsibility is from the operational team who will try to deploy, who will try to install on the servers, and then who is going to monitor the application performance. You can see the operational team deploys the monitoring, operate and maintain the applications. That is how the approach used to be. Okay. So you can see this next slide. So what actually happens when we are trying to go with this approach, this is kind of a time taking process. Now, if the developer is trying to deploy the code, he'll try to hand over that to the operational team, and the operational team will trying to take a time. They are trying to going to integrate and they'll try to test it out. They'll try to monitor and trying to hand over to the users or the customers. Then there are some errors which needs a rewritable code again. Okay. Then what actually happens? The developers who are trying to push the code, the deployments are scheduled only once per month. So again, they try to work hard. They try to push the code. So what within 1 month, everything is ready. Then customer is trying to, during the testing stage, the clients are not satisfied. What happened? Again, they have to send out the code. They have to rewrite and trying to pass on the feedback to the developers again. So it is kind of a time taking process. So if they are not satisfied, if there are some errors or the bugs, then again during the testing, then again the developers has to rewrite the code again. So again he need to work on that. Again it's kind of a time consuming, correct? So once it is developed again, they resolve the bugs and again it is coming to the operational team. They'll again try to build up the infrastructure again the same. They'll try to install it. They're going to test it out. So it is all going to be a loop, like a time taking process. So coming days, what they try to coming to a conclusion, what if we break the wall? That means rather we trying to have a different teams. Why not we trying to combine the development and operationals together? You can see that is DevOps, Dev plus Ops. What if we try to break the wall, like combining the entire process into one structure? Okay, they just try to came to a conclusion by building specific tools. Okay. So to avoid the wait times, IT teams using a different kind of tools and other automations to move code from one step of development and deployment to another. So simply what happens here, teams will be reviewing the changes, they collaborate together, and then can they apply the policies to ensure the proper releases to the customers to meet the standards. Okay. So as earlier what used to happen, developers might support the live software here, which puts the trying to develop the code with the considerations, and IT team what they try to do, administrators, and they are trying to involve in the software designs and offering guidance on how to use these resources efficiently and securely. So together if they try to work, they try to understand that we can have an increased collaborations. Okay. So as we know that each company has its some issues like a challenges. So what kind of a challenges? In terms of a time taking process, because the release increases the time taking process, that is too long. which doesn't meet the expectations and as per the IT needs where the company are required, because there is a deadlines for the companies to hand over the project. Okay. So without wait times and without any manual process and lengthy reviews earlier. Okay. So this kind of a combination of a DevOps, it moves the faster from the requirements to the live software handover to the customers, which provides a shorter cycle times by keeping a requirements from shifting so that product delivers what the customer wants. All right. So DevOps solves the communications and priority between different teams. To build software, development teams must understand and the production environment and test their code in realistic conditions. Okay. So that kind of a testing should be done by operational team, which they try to put the development and operation teams in combinations. Okay. So this is how this kind of a concept which came into picture. And now with a faster process from idea to live software, now the companies can be trying to capitalize on marketing opportunities. Okay. So we will just try to see what are the things that when it got developed and how this came into a picture as well. So in terms of a DevOps understanding, DevOps is not a tool. Okay. So DevOps is not a tool, technology, or a framework. So DevOps is nothing but a tool. It's not a specific tool. DevOps is a cultural movement, mindset, philosophy to coordinate, produce better, more reliable products. That means it's a combination of specific aspects and coordinating with the different teams to ensure better output to the customers. How it will be possible? By automating the infrastructure, workflow, and continuously measuring the application performance, for which they use a lot of tools. Okay. So to make sure from end to end, from the source to destination, where since from the development of a code and till the deployment of the code on the server and trying to build the infrastructure and till the handover of the customers, whatever the process, whatever the aspects that has been involved in between this process, that is nothing but a DevOps. That means usage of a various tools along with the coordination with the multiple teams. We are trying to automate the infrastructure, workflow, and continuous measuring application performance. Okay. So Patrick Debois, he's the one, a software development consultant who is, who has come up with such kind of an idea in the terms of DevOps in 2019 by naming a during a conference where with the name of DevOps. Okay. Where they try to assume this kind of a DevOps concept, it addresses the shortcoming of the software development methodology. Okay. So that's how this has been being evolving, and nowadays it's been one of the popular model currently of the market along with the cloud and DevOps. Okay. So how we are going to get benefit out of it? We have a fewer issues and increased communications between different teams and the faster time to market for the software, and then rapid improvement based on the feedback from the clients with a less downtime. So with the help of this, due to the combination and coordination with the different teams, we can have an improvement to the entire software delivery pipeline through builds, validations, and the deployment. So we have a less manual work, and as we have a automation is in place. Okay. So which is going to help us in streamlining the development process through increased responsibility and code ownership in development and broader roles and skills. That's how it is going to be helpful. If we see this life cycle, how it's going to be, the logo of a DevOps represents the infinite because it's a never-ending continuous process. As I told you, DevOps is not a tool or it's nothing but a technology. It's a continuation evaluation process till the end-to-end communication and handover to the customer. The product is finally handed over to the customer. It's a continuous process that is going to be helpful. What actually happens during the development phase? There will be a code, there is a plan, the code and they are trying to build the code and they are going to test. They are going to release to the operational team. The operational team is going to the deploy into the server infrastructure. They are going to operate the applications and then they are going to monitor the applications. And if there are any issues, then again it is going back to the development team. It is there, it's going to be plan again. They are going to come up with a new version. Then again the same process, the newer version is going to repeatable. You can see this is how the phase is going to be. This is nothing but a DevOps lifecycle. As we have understood, it's a never-ending continuous process. It's not a tool. It's kind of a specific framework. Okay. Are we understanding? So earlier, before DevOps concepts, what kind of a concepts we used to have, like earlier times? Okay. We have a different patterns, like a different concepts before this technology. So what happens? One of such kind of a technology is nothing but a waterfall methodology. When the developers used to develop a code, when it is trying to hand over and deployment, there is some kind of a technologies, right? So how we are trying to overcome out of these technologies and how this DevOps is going to be beneficial, we will try to see. So the waterfall methodology, that means you can see this example, the water is flowing, it is coming down, it's keep on flowing. That means the waterfall methodology, it also known as the waterfall model. That means it is a sequential development process that flows like a waterfall continuously through all phases of a project, like since from the stage of analysis, what kind of a project requirement, from the design level, what kind of a code it is going to have, what is an output we are expecting, and then once that a plan is design is fixed, then they are going to develop the code and then going for the testing. So for example, with each phase completely wrapping up before the next phase begins. That means when each phase is being done, they are going to be completely close this. They are going to, wrap up. And then they are quickly jumping into the next phase. So this is how the waterfall methodology. So we'll try to see what are the disadvantages out of this waterfall methodology. You can see this is completely, it's kind of a flowing, like a sequential flowing from phase to phase. We will try to have a requirement. We have a design where software architecture will try to design the requirement with a specific software code and the design implementations. And then they are trying to go with the implementation. This is done. Then simply they'll go to the next phase, like an implementation phase. That means they will build the software. Okay. They are going to build the software. And once that is done, they are going to have it verified during the testing phase. That means they are going to install, test it out, and debug if there are any issues. That's a verification process. So if there are any issues during this test and debug, they cannot try to quickly go back to the backend process. They have to completely come up here. Like, during this maintenance, once they are trying to installation is done, they are going to check for the errors, optimize the capabilities. So if there are any issues they found, during the maintenance phase, like, any bugs are there, or if there are any requirements to optimize the additional features, then what has to be done? Then again, it cannot be going back from here to here. They cannot try to go back to the verification phase. They cannot go with the implementation. They cannot try to have it the modification. That means they have to again come back to this waterfall method again if you want to have the new software version build. This is the disadvantage. If you can see, if you see the disadvantages here, what are the advantages? Waterfall method is simply easy to understand. Okay. Waterfall is simply to understand, easy to understand use. It is easy to maintain due to high rigidity of the model. It is easy to maintain due to the high rigidity of the model. Here, the phases are processed and completed one at a time. As we are seeing, the phase will be completed one by one step at a time, right? So this kind of a waterfall model of process, it will be beneficial and works well for the smaller projects where the requirements are very well understood. Okay, requirements are very well understood. It works for the small level of a project. Now what we can try to have a disadvantage in this waterfall method, you cannot go back to a step. As I told you, you cannot go back to the previous step. That means if there are any issues with the verification process, I cannot simply go back to the back step. That is a disadvantage. If the design phase has gone wrong, okay, it is kind of a high amount of a risk and uncertainty. Okay, and then it has a high amount of a risk and uncertainty because we have given a dedicated time or the scheduled time to the stakeholders or the clients. Yes, my code will be ready. I'll try to deploy the product and develop the product and I'll try to hand over to you at this time. So during the end of the time, if that was not hand over, that's a reputation issue, right? So that kind of an issue here. Not a good model for the complex and the object oriented projects where it requires some modifications that has to be done. It's not a good options. Not suitable for the projects where the requirements are at moderate risk of changes. That's kind of fun. For the big level projects, which they might try to have a reconfigurations of the code. Like, that's kind of a risk of changing. Okay, it won't be a not suitable. So again, from that particular waterfall phase, they try to come up with a new phase. Again, it's kind of a new technology that is nothing but an agile methodology. Okay, they just came up with a new options that is nothing but an agile methodology. This is one kind of another aspect which came into a market before this DevOps concept. Okay, we'll try to see what has been done here, how this going to be benefit over here. So here, what is agile methodology? It is a practice that promotes continuous iteration of development and testing throughout the software development lifecycle of the project. Okay, it has to be continuous iteration of a development. That means during this agile methodology, the agile team focus on incremental and rapid cycles of a code creation and delivery. So these kind of an concept we are calling as a sprints. Okay, so what happens here? Both the development and testing activities are concurrent. So that means during the development phase, the testing team is also trying to work along with the development phase, which are actually concurrently working, which is a disadvantage in the waterfall method that has been overcome here in this agile methodology. But in the waterfall method, one phase is completed, then only the next phase can be going up, right? So here it is kind of a sprint. That means it's going to be a repetitive. Parallelly, the development activities and the testing activities are going. You can see plan, design, develop, test. Plan, design, develop, test. It's kind of a sprint. So timelines of the project is fixed. But what was the disadvantages here? If you see, while the agile approach brought agility to the development, it was lost on the operations, which did not come up to the speed with agile practices. During this phase, they have issues with the testing phase and the monitoring phases. So what actually happens here during the sprint process, each sprint iterates upon the last, which makes the software highly flexible and adaptable to changing requirements. So it is possible for the original vision of project to be lost through this cycle. So of course, it has an advantage of being success at improving the development speed and the realization that disconnects between there is an issues on combining both process at a time, like development and operations team. Okay. In agile only workflow, what happens? The development and operations team have a separate objective and a separate leadership concepts. Okay. When an organization uses DevOps and Agile together, for example, both development and operation teams manage code through software development lifecycle. But in this Agile methodology, it is often formalized with a framework. That means the development have a separate approach and the operations will have a separate approach. So what are the disadvantages here? So here what actually happens? Developing software may takes months or years, correct? Now there is an example you can see. Initially, requirement, I need an app that can get YouTuber videos and the tweets in one place. There is a requirement. Okay, there is a stakeholder who is trying to gather the requirements from the customer. Okay, he is trying to confirm that I need an application that get YouTubers videos and the tweets and everything into one place. Then he's trying to take the requirements and trying to take the requirements and trying to pass on the information to the software architects. So here what the software architect is trying to do, he is trying to gather the information and he is trying to design, he'll try to build the code and he'll try to develop a software which is going to take some, for example, months or years. Okay, which is going to take months or years. Now what happens again? 1 year later, the same client is coming back with a new requirement. What actually happens? Once the software developer, he tried to develop the requirement after 1 year to this user, hey, my software is ready. Whatever the requirements you asked, I'm ready with, your app is done. Okay. That means he is trying to tell whatever the requirement you have to see the YouTube applications and the tweets in the one place in a one particular graphical interface. I've just developed, your software is ready. Now the same client, what he's trying to tell, okay, I had one more feature. Can you add a feature to get Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts in the same page? He had a requirement. Then again, what has to be done? The same stakeholder, he'll again go back to the software architect and he will again take months or years to again integrate the changes. So this would be a frustrating. So this is what happens during the development process too. This is the biggest challenge what we are trying to face here. You are understanding? This is how the process used to be go on. Okay. So this is the problem with this kind of a situations. So we have again one kind of a process where we are trying to see. This is what the person who is trying to have this. For example, there is a process called Scrum. Okay. Scrum is a subgroup of Agile. After Agile, there is a Scrum concept, which is a subgroup of Agile. Scrum is a framework that helps to improve teamworks together so that they combinedly they do a collaborative work to deliver the product to the customers. Scrum describes a set of meetings, tools, roles that works in a loop to help the team structure and manage their work. Okay. The Scrum process which involve like a planning, sprint cycle and the closure. Okay. The Scrum is nothing but a combinations of a tools and along with the teamwork. Okay. We have a Scrum team, Scrum master and the Scrum team members. Okay. So they're going to have a design and they'll try to have a development phase and then they'll try to hand over the project. So if you see this during the role of a Scrum, there will be a product owner or the client who will try to pass on the requirements to the Scrum master. That means he will try to gather the requirements from this particular client. Okay, I need such kind of an applications. I need such kind of a requirements. Okay. So then Scrum master, what he'll do, he will try to forward all the requirements to the group of people they are trying to work on here. Who are this group of people? They are people who are from the development, who are from the operational team and everyone, right? And then these Scrum team members, they'll try to work on it, develop, they'll try to design, they'll try to build the code and they'll try to deploy. Here, what are the disadvantages of the Scrum? We can see not effective for the small projects. It is not effective for the small projects because it's expensive to implement, because we need to pay salaries to the different members to have a software that has to be developed. That's a problematic situation here. Okay, that's what the Scrum team members. That's why it is telling expense to implement, because we have to pay salaries. As we know, the salaries will be high for those developers. Correct? So that is a problem here. Usually it is expensive to implement. We have to have a larger cost effective situations here. So here also the another disadvantage is need experienced member to be involved. We cannot simply trying to have with a normal based on the code uh, delivery timeline and the schedule timeline. We cannot have a normal members to have the deployment of a code and trying to implement. So we need an experienced members who are actually experienced in trying to develop the code, which is going to be problem, right? They have to pay the salaries. So that's kind of a situations. It's a disadvantage when it's going to the Scrum methodology. You can see expensive to the implement. Now here need experienced member to be involved and then works well with small teams only. Okay. And then replacement of a teammate is not easy task. For example, if out of the Scrum team members, there might be a front-end developer, there might be a designer, there might be a code implementer, there might be a testing team, there might be an operational team. If any of the team members who has assigned to that particular task, if that person is trying to leave the project, then again, it's not that easy to bring back similar kind of a resource who can try to implement the code, because the person who is initially working on this project, he might have a good idea. In the halfway, if he's trying to leave that particular project, then what happens? It is not an easy thing to recruit the same person or different person who have the same capabilities or the same skill set to have this project in phase go. So that's again a disadvantage. That's what it is telling. Replacement of a teammate, it's not an easy task. Okay. So we have a seen some kind of a methodologies like waterfall methodology, agile methodology, and this kind of a Scrum methodology. These are kind of a disadvantage what is happening here. If you are understanding how this software lifecycle and the development projects used to be in place in before the DevOps concept, are we getting? So these are the disadvantages, right? So that's where this DevOps technology which came into a picture with the various phases of life cycles with the automation tools along with the cloud integration and with an automation concepts which is trying to provide a reliable performance and transitional speed, and which are going to be have a with delivered to the clients in a proper time. Okay, that's how it is going to be really helpful here. So with the help of this DevOps concepts, after these kind of a disadvantages and different old tools in earlier, with the evaluations of existing tools for development and IT operations, we will be able to identify the shortcomings, that any issues, okay, which are handled manually or a tool. So now we are trying to have it deployed with an automation tools, some kind of a pipelines, automation tools. The team members can move from one project to another project without reskilling. Okay, so that's kind of a biggest advantages. So nowadays organizations can use this kind of a DevOps tools as a guide to adoptions. Okay, that means teams are actually, not actually it's required kind of a dependency. So they can be managed together in a centralized process, and where they have tried to come up with a different set of an options or the tools nowadays in the current market. In this way, organizations and IT departments which is trying to have a new skills and the job roles nowadays with some kind of an automation tools, how it's come to be. Okay, and which is trying to streamline the development process through increased responsibilities and the code ownership in the development process. That's how it is definitely going to be helpful. In this way, this kind of a DevOps technologies, not technology, I can say it's a collaboration, right? So it breaks down the barriers so that development and operation teams are no longer siloed. So they have a more efficient way to work across the entire development and application life cycles. So without DevOps nowadays, the organizations often experience some kind of a disconnects, which delays the delivery of a software releases to the customers and negative impact in terms of a business results. So this kind of a DevOps model, it's an organizational answer to increase the operational efficiency and then providing a proper delivery and trying to assist with the problems and delivering innovative products. So with this, the benefits of increased collaborations, proper responsive and shorter cycle times, they have a very good feedback. Okay. So DevOps was originated in the year 2018. So as I told, it was discussion between the two people called Andrew Clay and the Patrick DeBois. These are the one who have tried to discuss and trying to implement such kind of a process in general in the previous. And then in 2009, they held a summit at Belgium that they discussed what if DevOps comes to the market, this kind of a technology. In 2014, the annual state of a DevOps report was published, and then 2014 is a proper year there this kind of a technology got evolved. And if DevOps had a birth certificate, the father name would be the penned as a Patrick DeBois because he's the one who come up with such kind of a idea. Okay. So what does the DevOps engineer do? For example, if anyone gets a job, what does the DevOps engineer do in general? So DevOps engineer is somebody who understands the software development lifecycle and has the outright understanding of various automation tools for developing pipelines. Okay, developing pipelines. So DevOps engineers works with the developers and the IT staff to oversee the code releases. Okay, so what he does, he introduces the new methodologies to implement the process quickly. That's a responsibility for the DevOps engineer. So he's the one who will try to coordinate with the multiple teams to bring into the phase, either into the developers or with an operational team, where from the code release, during the deployment phase of the code deployment and till the end of the code release. So he will have a knowledge of both development team and operation team as well. Okay. So such kind of a skills he has to attire. All right. You have understand the I mean, what I mean to say, like the introduction, how it's going to work. So for example, if a software developer, he can gain a skills in the operations such as host configuration and server launch, okay, and to become a DevOps engineer. Similarly, a system engineer like an IT operation member who has a knowledge on server level deployment, he should have a knowledge in the coding, scripting, and testing the knowledge, who can become a good DevOps engineer. Okay, these should be the requirement usually. So many DevOps job listings call for cloud and a CID, I mean code integrations and deployment knowledge with the softwares as a skills that has to be in the resumes as well. So a DevOps engineer, a good DevOps engineer might also need to change the process and solve the organizational problems to achieve the business outcomes. Okay. Usually in other companies, it's not only the title will be same. The DevOps, the organization, they have a different titles like infrastructure developer, site reliability engineer, and the build and release engineer, full stack developer, automation specialist, and CI/CD platform engineer. Okay, most entry-level DevOps jobs requires a degree in the computer science or related field that covers the coding and QA and testing and IT infrastructure component knowledge. Okay, we have a different certifications as well, which with the different frameworks. That is, DevOps certifications from foundation level to high level as well. So that's how this kind of a job roles which will be there. So DevOps along with the cloud, which will be an added advantage. It's going to be helpful to have a successful DevOps engineer as well. So DevOps engineers definitely requires the knowledge of a range, some kind of a programming language and a strong set of a communication skills to be able to collaborate among the different teams and the business groups. Okay, so that's how it goes. And when coming to the tools in general, as we have seen, the evolved technologies and different set of an automation tools currently in the market. These are the tools what we use in the DevOps level. You can see during the plan phase, we have a Git where we try to upload the codes, and the Jira where we try to upload and store the codes during the planning phase, where we'll try to write down the codes and trying to have it like a coding and the planning level. Okay. During the build of a software like a Maven, Gradle, Apache, and these are the tools where we'll try to build the code by the developers. These are the tools that has been automation tools. And during the testing phase, there the the JUnit and SE were the tools. And then when it has to be integrated with the development phase, the operational phase, we have a tools called Jenkins, Bamboo, and the Hudson. 90% of the market currently using the Jenkins as the integration tool currently. And then once the integration has been in phase, during the deployment phase, we have a tools called a Docker, Puppet, Chef, Ansible, and the Salt Stack during the deployment and operational phase, which can be integrated through the cloud level. For example, if my code is ready, I want to have this code deployed and then trying to have it operated in the infrastructure of the cloud, for example, AWS cloud. I can try to use such kind of a tools. I'll simply try to put the Docker image into my cloud network. Simply, my code will be ready. During the monitor phase, once my infrastructure is set up, my application is ready, I try to have the infrastructure deployed and the code application is running phase. I have to monitor the applications, like any events, any issues with the applications, like a server level, that has to be monitored. So there are specific monitoring tools like a Splunk, Nagios, and Stack, ELK, Elastic, Log Search, Kibana. These are the specific monitoring tools to monitor the application performance. So these are the specific tools currently which are famous in the market, which are currently in phase. Okay, that's how it goes. And so this is how the tools which you are trying to, you might have heard of these tools in the current market. So it's not all the tools should be used at a time. Okay. For a plan phase, we might use a one tool, plan and coding phase, and the build phase, we might use one tool. The testing phase, we might use one more tool. And deployment phase, we can use one, operation phase in deployment, we can use one tool, and the monitoring phase, we can use one tool. Okay. That's how it goes. So these are the differences before the DevOps and after the DevOps, how it has trying to evolve and trying to provide a beneficial features currently in the market when compared to the old technologies. Before the DevOps, there was a miscommunication in terms of a process wise and in terms of a collaboration. You can see miscommunication was there, right? Because there are different teams which are completely separated. Now the collaboration has been improved. And then absence of DBS in the release life cycles. So the administrators, database administrator during the release cycles, there won't be database administrator during the release. So now after DevOps, the collaborations happens with the based on the customer feedback. Whenever they need a new changes that can be implemented quickly during the release lifecycle itself. It takes time for executing the code. And but during the DevOps with automation tools, with a speedy execution, it can be possible. When it comes to the deployment models, there was a delay in terms of a software deployments. Now we have seen a rapid growth in the delivery phase. Okay. And we have a constant monitoring of application. When we have a DevOps before DevOps concept, now we have a sustained software development. That means everything can be done into a one console in terms of a monitoring phase. And maintenance is high because as we have seen during the different agile waterfall and the scrum process, we have to maintain a different teams to give them a salaries and trying to have the deployment like a replacement of any engineer. That is a possibility, to have a skill set issue. I mean, this thing, correct? So that's the biggest challenge we had, correct? And then cost is high. So here the cost can be reduced because everything into a one structure, the combinations, we have a group collaboration. Lack of scope for innovations. Here the innovation will be improved. Low way failure recovery rate. That means during any issues, the recovery rate, that is, it's a very having a less percentage. But here the percentage is actually varied when compared to the before DevOps concepts. Lack of security during the DevOps concept. We have a high security during the DevOps concept with a high tools, different set of tools, and then different kinds of automation methods as we are completely into the cloud integration as well. That is going to provide additional benefit. No scope for a continuous integrations. Here we have an option for the continuous integration in terms of enhancements in the product level, enhancements in the deployments, and trying to resolve the bugs and trying to come up with the new version codes. These are how the advantages what we can see. Okay. Okay. So if you can see the chart, like in, using US DevOps market by enterprise size since from that particular 2000 range, like from this year till 2025, how the revenue and evolvement in terms of a growth. When these kind of a DevOps concept is in picture, you can see the graph, how it is trying to increase. So from the small level organizations to large level enterprise levels, how this has been increased, which is trying to provide a better software development methodology, bringing everyone into one place to create secure code easily. See, the involvement is very high. Okay. So in terms of our roles and responsibilities for a DevOps engineer, continuous integrations and continuous delivery pipelines, automating of daily tasks, and the manage, the other responsibility is to maintain the cloud level, server level network architectures that we have already discussed since last 10 days, and trying to deploy infrastructure as a code. So this infrastructure as a code, I'll show you a sample now. Okay. Okay. And the responsibility also integrates with the cloud migrations. Like if you have a setup during the on-premise environment, okay, the cloud migration is in place from on-premise environment to the cloud level. If any infrastructure you have to migrate, we might need a knowledge on the responsibility that should be included as well. Continuous monitoring, as I told you, once the application is developed and deployed, we might have to monitor the application in a continuous phase. Like if application is running, the related application services are working properly, and the server is properly done. See, cloud migration is something, for example, I have an infrastructure set up in completely a private cloud environment where I want to move my complete infrastructure to save the cost and the time to the completely in the cloud. Like in, for example, AWS, Azure, or GCP. We have a different cloud migration tools that will be trying to help out with a complete migration of your infrastructure from on-premise environment to the cloud environment. Either it might be a database, network, or complete infrastructure, all the combination itself. Okay. Yes, even from Google to GCP, I mean GCP to AWS, or from AWS to Azure, even that involves the migration as well. So also we need to make sure that pipeline is working smoothly, whatever the face-to-face implementation. Collaboration with all the teams. We have to collaborate with the testing team, front-end development team, QA team, and a database team, right? Application team. There are specific teams, so it needs a collaboration with the different teams. This is how the roles and responsibility used to be in place. Okay. So this is about the introductions of a DevOps. Are we able to understand? Any doubts? Are we able to understand? Was the introduction of DevOps? The migration is simply switching from one cloud computing vendor to another vendor. So that is nothing but a cloud to cloud migration. Okay, switching from GCP to AWS, from AWS to Azure, and vice versa. And another migration, it might be on-premise to the cloud migration. What is on-premise? There is a company who is hosting their physical data center. Okay, they have all the infrastructure set up. Now at some point, they are into loss in trying to maintain the entire data center, right? That is private cloud. What they want to do and decide, they want to completely transfer their infrastructure, like their network, their applications, their websites, everything they want to move to the virtual servers in the cloud. So that is the migration which is happening from on-premise to the cloud. Okay, is it clear, Shivashai? So in general, in these, the companies, what they try to migrate, they'll completely migrate the database, the network, like, operating systems, like applications, everything. We have a different set of tools. Like they'll try to migrate servers, storage, networking software over the internet. Okay, so that's how it goes. Any doubts on introduction? So, this next 2 to 3 days, it's not like everything we could be able to cover. It's like we have a different tools, a different knowledge, and the coding level, scripting level, right? But we will try to see what are those different tools and how these are actually useful. That's what we are going to discuss. And after this, we are trying to, I'll show you how simple code development that can be trying to deploy in terms of a cloud, and we will have an output very quickly. How cloud is trying to provide those tools like a platform to us. Okay. Yes, we can implement the DevOps concepts to all other models, not specific to, Agile only. Yeah. This DevOps can be integrated. It's a continuous evaluation process. We have a specific tools and the process as well. So what we're gonna do? So for example, I'm a developer. Okay. I don't have any knowledge on infrastructure. So I need a platform in the cloud level where I have to deploy and put my code into the cloud so that I can completely trying to write a code on trying to upload the code into the cloud. Simply I could expect an output and I can try to deliver to the customers. Usually being a developer, if you want to write a code, what you need a platform like proper configured computer or the server with a software installed, like if that has to be supported with the framework and .NET or Java or C++ or a Python, correct? JScript, Ruby. There are different softwares which has to be there, right? To have that software, I need some particular platform, right? So that kind of a platform cloud is providing. I'll just try to show you a sample code development which is in place where we can try to upload the code and trying to give that output and trying to have that output shown over the online. I mean, with the help of a cloud environment. Okay. I'll try to show you an example how it can be done in terms of a cloud as well. I'll just log in to the console. Let me try to open this. Let's try to have a deploy some sample software. So we have a different tools. There is a tool called Elastic Beanstalk. It's kind of a platform their cloud is trying to provide us. Let's see. So we'll just have an overview. So the service name is nothing but Elastic Beanstalk, right? What is Elastic Beanstalk? It is a PaaS service used for deploying, scaling web applications and services developed with a Java, .NET, PHP, Node.js, or Ruby. There are different kinds of development codings, right? Like on a familiar servers, it will try to deploy this particular software like Apache, Nginx, or Tomcat or IS. These are the web deployment packages. I mean servers where we can try to deploy these codes. So this platform, if we have to build, like initially I'm a developer, what we need, either I need to have a proper physical server or the virtual server, or else I have to go to a computer shop and trying to purchase that required resources like equipment, like how much RAM I could need, what is the storage, what is a graphic card to support .NET frameworks. Okay, I have to purchase that and assemble them. Okay, and another option is trying to purchase one kind of a computer or system that fits our requirements. So this is how, before the Beanstalk, for the developers, this is how the option they can try to work on the code level implementations. So because if this platform is a service, what actually it is going to be helpful over the cloud? Here you can see what is the PaaS. PaaS is nothing but a platform as a service. That means the cloud vendor, they are trying to provide a platform as a service to the developers. This kind of a service is mostly beneficial for the developers. Okay, that means these are the aspects which will be managed by the completely by the cloud vendor. These two are the aspects which will be managed by us. So what are those? The network in the physical data center, the storage, the servers, the virtualization, like the operating system, like whatever the operating system that has to be like a Windows, Linux, or Macintosh, whatever the operating system, the middleware software, the platforms, and the runtime environment. Everything will be managed by the cloud vendor, either it is AWS or GCP, or if it is Azure. These aspects completely managed by the cloud vendor. That means we shouldn't be worried about the physical infrastructure. The backend environment, everything will be managed by the cloud. Only we are using a software or the application platform to deploy our coding, either in the .NET language, the code, or the JavaScript code, or a Python script. So whatever the code we have a different platforms that is already being configured inside this cloud environment by cloud vendor. Simply that we can try to use it in the cloud console and we can try to deploy that. That's how it is going to be really helpful here. So managed by the customers, what is that? The application deployment and the data what you're trying to have, the code. And the backend infrastructure completely managed by the cloud vendor, so that we can simply use this particular platform to deploy our infrastructure. I mean, deploy our code. Okay. So what are the advantages by using such kind of a platform as a service? We have a benefit for the quicker deployment. Okay, the deployment is very faster as it's being implemented in the cloud, and it also simplify the operations, and it will try to save us time. We don't need to worry about the backend infrastructures because the developers might not have a knowledge on the development infrastructure, right? So this kind of a services offered by cloud, which will be really beneficial in terms of simplifying the operations. In terms of a cost, it's really effective because it is going to save my time and money to deployment of complete infrastructure, like since from the server, storage, and the configurations. Multi-tenant architecture, because I can try to have a different platforms created over the cloud environment. We'll have a better user experience because we have a management console benefits, which we can try to continuously monitor here. When we try to see the features of Beanstalk, Elastic Beanstalk is the fastest and simplest way to deploy our applications on AWS. It will enable us to focus on writing code rather than spending time managing than configuration of servers, vice versa. It automatically scales our application up and down based on the application specific needs. Okay, that means based on the application usage, the resources on the background, it will try to keep on scaling up, and when there is a no need based on the traffic of that application load, it will try to scale down the infrastructure. It gives you freedom to select the specific resources, like what kind of instances I need, what kind of a network I have to launch, which are optimal for the applications. That kind of a features we might have available over this Beanstalk service in the cloud. Okay, so I'll just try to show you a practical experience, I mean example, how this simpler code can be executed. If you have a code you can upload, or else you can try to have a code that can be written here as well. Okay, let me check. In the meanwhile, any doubts till here? Yeah, if you have a code, you can try to input the code into this cloud as well. Any doubts in the meanwhile till now? Yes, we can have a Python code that can be implemented. I'll show you how it looks like. Any doubt still? You can ask in the Zoom chat. Definitely, being a cloud engineer, Linux is a mandatory. It will be helpful. Like, yeah, Linux operating system is definitely mandatory. Any doubts? All right. So if you can see, this is an Amazon Elastic Beanstalk. So Amazon Elastic Beanstalk is a easy to use service for deploying, scaling web applications and services with Java, .NET, PHP, Python, Ruby, Go, and Docker. On which servers? Like a familiar servers like Apache, Nginx, and IIS. Okay. What we do is we simply upload our code into this particular platform, and Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the deployment from the capacity provisioning, load balancing, and automatic scaling to the web applications until the monitoring level, health monitoring. Okay. So we'll have a complete, we have a freedom to have a complete resource control in terms of a service resources, such as we can try to select what kind of Amazon EC2 server. Additionally, it will try to have a control on powering on the web application as well. We have on monitoring benefits as well here. Okay. So let's try to have a started with one of the sample application. See, there is a get started option, right? Let's see how it can be configured. So I want to run a web server environment. Okay. So I'm trying to have a given application name here, for example, sample demo web application. Okay. I'm giving the name. You can see automatically there's a name demo application hyphen environment. Sample web application. I'm choosing the platform. You can see we have a different platforms to deploy the code. Okay. .NET, Docker, Go, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby, Tomcat. Right. For example, I'm trying to select the Python platform. Okay. We have a different Python versions that has been deployed here. So I'm selecting a default version here with a platform version. So you can go with the sample demo applications. You can see you can upload your code either from your local computer. If you have a Python code which is already ready, you can upload that code, or else you can upload from an S3 storage URL, or else you can try to use a sample application. For the understanding from the as we are trying to understand the demo, so I'm going to upload a sample application here. Okay. So here this option will try to show us single instance, high availability, or a different instance. As we have a free tier only one server, I'm trying to click on one server here. I'm clicking on next. So create a new role. I'm selecting the key pair. I'm clicking on next. you can launch this complete environment into a virtual network. Because I have a default VPC which is already there, I'm launching in a 172.31.0.0. Okay. So I can select if you want to have a public IP which has to be added for the server, so that you will have a public IP access. That means you can access the website from outside environment. So I'm clicking on activate. I can, select any of these subnets that your environment has to be launched. So I'm selecting all. That means I need these applications to be deployed into different availability zones. Okay. I don't need a database for now, so I'm ignoring this. I'm clicking on next. So till today and the next 3 days, we'll have a session up to 2 hours 20 minutes. So maybe we will wrap the session around 9:20 or sometime. Okay. And remaining we have a doubt session because we have a Christmas holiday. So the timing for next 2-3 days will be 2 hours and 2.5 hours around. Okay. So the class it's gonna be extended till after 9 as well. Okay, because we have a Christmas holiday. So I'm going with the default settings. The root volume is default. I don't need any monitoring level options here. The security, I'm going with a default security group. Okay, you can select that security group whatever you needed. The capacity, how many servers you need. You need a multiple servers to handle the load or a single. I'm just going with a single as part of a free tier instance. You can see t3.micro and t3.small. And then I'm selecting, you can see by default, a mission image got selected, AMI, right? Like this particular environment, the Python code is trying to deploy in a Linux server. Okay, I'm clicking on next. Let's see. All right, here from the monitoring level, I'm just going with a basic. As I told you, right, there is an operational team who used to conduct the monitoring, like how your server is functional and the application level performance, the events, everything will be done with the help of a CloudWatch. So I'm going with a basic monitoring and platform updates. This is one kind of an options. What is a managed platform updates? It's something where it is trying to perform the maintenance, like a Windows software updates to Windows updates or the Linux updates, whatever, depending on your operating system, it is trying to update the security patches, whatever the operating system you have. So during this maintenance Windows updates, it needs a server reboot, right? Here we are trying to define explicitly that at this particular time or this particular day, the server has to be going with the maintenance updates or maintenance patches to be installed. So if you want, you can do it, but in real time it is needed. Activate manage platform updates to apply platform updates automatically during a weekly maintenance window that you choose. Okay, I'm trying to deactivate this and I don't need any email notification for these events. I'm just clicking on this. The deployment should happen either in a percentage wise or the fixed wise. I'm trying to deploy all at once with a percentage based. So I'll come down. Which server you want to have it, Apache server or Nginx server? We have a two options that has been given. So I'm selecting with the default only. I'll go with the next. It is trying to deploy a Linux server. Okay, this application, the Python sample code application. Let's see what is the code. So guys, till from today till 26th December is the last day. So we'll have 30 minutes more, like 7 to 9:30 around. Okay, still 7 to 9:30 or 9:20, because Christmas is a holiday. So we're gonna have a 15-day session completely. Okay. Till next 3 days, the session will be till around, it might cross 9. This is the application, how it looks like, the console for this Elastic Beanstalk. You can see this is trying to create an environment. Okay, I had a code. Simply, I'm a developer. I'm just trying to have a code trying to deploy in the cloud. It is trying to deploy an application for me. Let's see what kind of application it is trying to generate. Okay, let's give it some time. So it's keep, the health status should be green, then it should be fine. Gray means it is in progress. Okay. Red color, red means the health status is red, then the deployment is failed. Yellow means some aspects are progress, some aspects are failed. Okay, we should make sure it is green, then your deployment is ready. Let's give it some time. What platform we choose? Python 3.11 running on Amazon Linux machine. Okay, that's what we are seeing here. Now my code health status or the deployment status is green. See, these are the series of events, right? What are those events? At this particular time, the time to time events it is generating. So that's why we have a management console benefits over here. The environment is starting using Elastic Beanstalk. It is trying to store the code in Amazon S3 storage bucket. It has been created a security group, separate security group created. I did not do anything. Everything it is trying to launch automatically. It is creating a security group. It is trying to assign the public IP. It is automatically launching an EC2 server. This is a server ID. You can see this instance ID, and then it is successfully launched the application. Okay. If I have to see the server and everything, it will try to show me the information as well, for example. Oh. Let's see if automatically launch a EC2 server for me. I'll go and check in the EC2 server here. It should deploy a virtual server automatically because I did not do any configuration, right? I did not click on launch. I did not install application. Everything I did not do. Everything is automated because of Elastic Beanstalk. Let's see. See, there is instance which is created. What instance created? Demo application environment. What kind of a machine it is? It's a Linux application, correct? It's a Linux application which is, server which has been deployed. It has been deployed under a security group. What kind of a security group? You can see this AWS Elastic Beanstalk security group. If I open this security group, I did not create it. It has been created automatically by the Elastic Beanstalk. What ports are enabled? HTTP port and SSH ports are enabled. See, this is security group is automatically created by the automatic deployment by Elastic Beanstalk. So basically what it is trying to do, it is trying to deploy a group of a stack. Stack is nothing but a combinations of different resources for this environment. It deployed a server, it deployed an IP, generated a public IP, it deployed a security group. This health, it will try to show the status. This is the logs, which will try to display if any environment issues are there. And we have an alarm section. If environment had any issues, it will try to schedule an alarm for us, which will try to send out email notification. Now, I have a domain which got created, right? A sample application with the help of a Python code. So this is a domain. I can try to test the output. Let me open in a new tab. This is a public URL. It has been generated, right? You can see, congratulations, your first Elastic Beanstalk Python application is now running on your dedicated environment in the AWS cloud. The environment is launched with the Elastic Beanstalk Python platform. See, this is the application sample website it got deployed. Even you can go and check it out. I'm posting in the Zoom chat if it is working or not. Just go and check, everyone. I posted in the Zoom chat. If you are able to see this website, now you are able to understand how simply, this automation of deployment has been, configured within this. So it just makes the automation and deployment made easy with such kind of a tools within the cloud, right? So in this way, you can try to deploy and upload your code into this console, deploy any particular dynamic website applications, and deliver to the clients as well. So companies nowadays, they are trying to use such kind of options, like a different tools. Everyone able to test it out or just watching? So I have a server which has been deployed. So for example, mm, let's see where this code got uploaded. It's 3, right? So for example, if I can try to run a different environments into this Elastic Beanstalk. If I'm done with this, if I want to change the version, for example, this is a recommended version. If I need a change, I can try to have this version change with the different versions. So the backend configuration will be completely taken by AWS. We shouldn't be worried about. That's also an advantage. Okay, this is one kind of an option. And if I want to terminate, I can simply go and actions and trying to terminate as well. Once I terminate, automatically the server will be deleted, automatically the security group will be deleted. I don't need to go and do the task manually. Okay. For example, I'll go to actions and terminate environment here. Enter the name of the environment. For example, Control C, click on terminate. See, it again events are going to happen. Elastic Beanstalk is terminating your environment. See, waiting for instances to terminate. That means the server is going to automatically terminate it. I don't need to do a manual action here. Let's wait. You can see it's automatically shutting down, which you can monitor to the events. Let's wait. Let's wait for it to terminate it. The health status should be, it should be a going into completion. Let's wait for it to be unterminated. It's still in the termination phase. Slowly the resources will be deleted. Someone had a question. If you have a web application in a Django that is in the GitHub, so you want to have a database configuration. So again, there are some applications, okay, within the cloud where the cloud will be able to configure a storage for a database as well. Like if you want to use an RDS storage, you can try to configure within the cloud. If you want to have a NoSQL, you can try to do it in the cloud. So you can try to have it configured in the cloud itself. You can try to import the code from GitHub and link with the application inside this cloud environment. That's going to be helpful. Okay, Unvar. You remember when I'm trying to deploy this Elastic Beanstalk, there is an option called DB configuration, database, correct? So you can try to have a database configured for the code what you have in GitHub. So we can see the environment has been successfully terminated. Okay. So now if you go and refresh the server, there won't be a server in the background. The environment has been terminated. So this web page will now stop working. You can see the site can't be reached. Okay. In this way, it is going to be helpful. So you can try to have a sample code, or you can also have an upload of your own code to this environment. Okay. For example, I have a code here that is in the format of a node.js. Okay. What actually we're gonna do, I'm just trying to go and modify this code based on my requirement and upload my from local system to the server. All right. So let me try to see if I can try to edit this. It has been written in the YAML language. What I'll try to do, I'll just try to edit this mm, with some kind of a notepad. Let's see. This is the cron YAML. I'll edit with a notepad. Let's see how this code has been written. Required. There is a JavaScript, right? Node.js. So I should try to edit this. If you want to do some modifications in the code, you can try to do it as well. App.js JavaScript. Edit with Notepad++. It has a JavaScript. I want to see the content. Maybe I'll try to modify the content. Control delete. There should be a HTML file which is an output of it's a welcome page, right? The index page that is trying to go deployed. Let me see what does the index.html had. For For example, this is the index.html page which has it. For example, all right. Now this is the index.html for that JavaScript package, correct? When I'm trying to have the code deployed, so it has been written in the HTML page with this kind of a content which is going to be displayed. For example, I'm trying to modify the content, all right? Let me see if, I'll just try to modify this content. Mm, post demo double application has been launched. XLR Zoom class. Okay. The demo website has been configured with node.js script. Okay. This is the edits which I've given. You can try to modify this particular hyperlinks as well. I'm just trying to have a test. I'll just save this HTML file. What I'll try to do, I'll go and copy into this particular package. I'll copy and replace this file. Okay. Now I'll upload this package to this Elastic Beanstalk cloud. Let's see. This has been terminated anyway. Actions. Okay. I'll create a new environment. I'll give a so I'll just give it a name as demo node.js web app. This deployment this environment creates a demo web application with JS code. Okay, I'm just trying to give a sample description. I'll choose the platform as I'm trying to upload the node.js. I'm selecting the node.js platform. Once I select this, the AWS cloud in the background, it will try to run a environment. Okay, it will try to run a runtime environment from me in the background. So this node.js application will be installed on a Linux machine. It will try to automatically launch a server for me. Okay. I'm selecting, I'll go with the default settings with the default version here, latest what is there. I'll upload code. Upload a source bundle from your computer or copy one from Amazon S3. I can try to import from Amazon S3 here or else local code will be there. I'll try to drag and drop the code here. It is trying to file, choose file, documents, node.js. I'll click on open. I have a single instance, free tier eligible. I'll click on next. I need to name the version, right? Maybe version 1.1. Okay. For this code, I'm trying to name it. Maximum size for a code to be uploaded is a 500 MB. You can see our node.js script, I mean code with the files has been uploaded here. Use an existing key role. That means role is nothing but a permission. I'm trying to launch the server under specific key pair, which is already there. I'm trying to select that. Click on next. It will follow the YAML file within the zip file code, which is already in place in this package. Okay, it is trying to take all the configuration from this particular code and the required files. You can see this. The git ignore something. So it is trying to, choose the code from this app.js JavaScript and trying to have a welcome index file from this index.html. It is trying to choose this configuration out of this package, and it has a necessary extension files which is already in place. I'm clicking on next. So under which network you want to launch, I'm selecting a default VPC. So if your VPC is properly configured, then only this particular output will be you are able to see. If your VPC is not properly, you again need to troubleshoot. Your troubleshooting skills matters on trying to work on configuration of a network. If your network is not properly done, it won't work. I'm assigning the public IP address. I want to test the output. You can see, as someone had a question earlier, right? Like Mirza Munawar, you want to integrate with the database. If you want to have any database deployed, integrate RDS SQL storage database with your environment. You can try to have it a database, and you can try to choose the required engine, database engine, what kind of a storage unit, everything you can try to launch if you need a database to be integrated. Okay. I don't need a database for now. I'm not selecting. I'm just selecting only the network here because it's a demo website. I don't want any data to be stored in the background. I'm clicking on next. I'm just going with the default security group. I need a single server. I don't need a multiple load servers. The t3.micro, t3.small, it will try to launch a server here with a Linux machine AMI. I'm clicking on next. Earlier, we tried to test the output with a Python, right? Platform. Now we are trying to launch a node.js. I don't need any activations or managed updates. I don't need any notifications. I'll just go with the default settings. Let's see, the environment should launch without any errors. It's a overview of the final. I'll just click on submit. So we'll monitor the events to get the health status as green. My environment is ready. And now it is in the green status. It has been created a security group again. It launched a server. Environment health status set to green. So my demo environment is ready. This is the DNS domain. If I try to open, let's see the output. See, it has been launched with a modification. What I'm trying to do in the node.js. Welcome to the cloud computing class. Your first demo application has been launched in XLR Zoom class. The demo website is open in the node.js script. You can configure different hyperlinks or whatever. It depends on how you configure the HTML code. Okay. You can go and test everyone. I'm just pinging in the Zoom chat if it is working as well, because I just assigned a public access for this, right? So that's why it is trying to show the output here. Are you able to see the output? I posted the link in the Zoom chat. For everyone, is it the output is showing up visible? See, I can try to have the deployment within the cloud environment. Yes, of course. I don't have any SSL certificate installed in my computer, and we did not enable the SSL within the server as well, right? It needs a certificate to be installed for a security purpose. So that's why we are trying to load this website with a HTTP, which is not secure actually. And it's a, only sample page, like we are not entering any data. It's like a read-only page, right? So that's why usually in real-time environments for the website, they'll try to have a deployment for SSL. You're understanding how the deployment has been easier within the cloud. So now I'll go and terminate the environment. Actions, terminate the environment. It will try to delete the environment completely, simply with a one click. I'm just trying to DevOps.environment here. Click on terminate. Okay. It's going to terminate soon. Any doubts? So that's it for today's session. You can ask any doubts if you have. We will try to review some more tools from tomorrow as well. I'm just terminating the environment. Any doubts? It's going to be terminated now. The server is going to be terminated. See, the tower is getting terminated here as well, shutting down. Yes, it followed the relevant YAML and HTML file for the deployment. Yeah, we can use, follow this process in Azure or Google Cloud Platform. It had a different GUI, it had a different concept, separate tools. So mostly, as we cannot everything wrap up in this thing, right? We can concentrate on any one of the cloud environments. So I'm just trying to show it in the Amazon, as even I do have an experience in Amazon too. Any doubts? My environment should be deleted by now.
Guys, hope you enjoy the session. Today we are done for the day. So, is there any queries? Please let me know in the chat box. I'm sharing the attendance link again in the chat box. Make sure your attendance. So, there is no more questions, it seems. So, we'll wind up the session for today. We'll meet on tomorrow. Up to then, take care. Have a good night. Bye bye.